Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
Welcome to the MMA Opinion Podcast. My name is Lima Griffin. I'm joined as always by Mr. Paul O'D.
How are things? On this week's show, we will talk about topics such as Dana White's interview, Bellator announcements, and Chimaev struggles with COVID.
We're also going to have a preview of UFC 258, so we've lots to be getting on with. Let's be getting on.
I want to fight with Chuck. Fuck Chuck.
I think he just blew his wad there.
Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck. Are you still drunk right now? Are you still drunk?
I don't think they noticed.
No, even though the mics were still on anyway. That one. We're very giddy today. Yeah, we need to get into some news topics. Straight into it.
Straight into it, boy. No messing, no kissing. Right. Dana White.
Yeah, I didn't see much of the interview today, but you showed me some of it where he was touching on the lightweights and that the top 7 guys, not top 8 guys for some fucking reason, top 7 guys are going to all fight it out for what he said are 2 spots for the belt. Just struck me as a bit odd, and like I said to you earlier, imagine if you're Beneil Dariush after what he said after his performance against Diego Ferreira, that it's a shame that they have to fight guys beneath them to get up there, and now they're being told they're not in the picture at all.
Yeah, so essentially, I mean, like, they're going for an 8-man tournament with you said, with 1 boy. Yeah, it's with 7 men and an 8-man tournament.
Khabib is just a ghost that he wants involved but won't be involved. Yeah,
they're extending his stay at the top, and I suppose just kind of trying to establish what they would be comfortable as being the number 1 contender to fight him again next. I mean, to be fair, it does make some bit of sense. I mean, he has beaten any of the guys who would be next, apart from Oliveira, apart from Tony Ferguson. You know, like RDA, he hasn't fought, but you know, or has he fought in a long time? I don't know, I can't remember. But so, like, you know, like giving the lads at the top a chance to kind of sort it out between themselves, create the next undisputed contender, and then bring him back. You know, because it is a special fight, 30-0.
There's that, and then there's the argument that he has said he doesn't want to hold up the division. He's said a couple of times that he's not coming back. It just bangs of like that they don't know what to do yet. Like, he made a statement saying the MMA world isn't over Khabib yet. Khabib is still the champ. Everyone in the MMA world is trying to move on, except for Dana White.
Yeah,
he's the one that's holding on to this air that he's going to come back, and maybe he will, maybe he won't. But in the meantime, the lightweight division has to move on, and I'm all for it. If you're going to do a Grand Prix, call it a fucking Grand Prix, and give it some structure, because saying that these guys are all going to fight off, it's going to be Conor Dustin 3. We don't know what the rest of the matchups are going to be. You'd be moving to 170 or 145 at this point if you were ranked 9 or 10 in the lightweight division.
So you posted up this question on the MMA Opinion page. So that's the MMA Opinion on Facebook, guys. If anybody's watching in, obviously you already know where you're at. But yeah, so I mean, those are that's the picture that goes with it. Shows the top 7 people. So you've got Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson, Conor McGregor, and Rafael dos Anjos. So that's it. That's the tournament.
Yeah,
and they're trying to get at that man.
You even look at these guys that are there. So Tony's lost 2 in a row. Conor's lost 2 in a row. You have RDA, who's just back down to 55, and he's won 1 fight down there. Michael Chandler's won 1 fight. And then you've guys on the outside that are on 4 or 5 fight winning streaks that cannot get a look in. They've no even kind of time frame for when they can match up with a top 5, top 6 fighter.
Yeah,
it's bananas.
They're going to have to come up with like a lightweight B title or something.
A European title like they did in the WWE. Yeah, so it's baffling at this point. We're 6 months removed from Khabib retiring, and we are absolutely no closer to having this situation sorted. And I really thought as well, when the matchups were UFC 257, the main and co-main, that we'd move a lot closer to knowing what was going to happen. And it feels like we're back at square one again.
So who do you reckon? So I reckon, well, you had a theory as that there was 2 people on that list that are likely to bring Khabib out of retirement, if at all.
Yeah. The only two people for me that I think Khabib would get out of bed for is Conor McGregor, because of the rivalry there, and Michael Chandler because it's something new and the wrestling, and there's multiple factors there. I just don't think he gets out of bed for Charles Oliveira, as wrong as that may be. I don't think he brings enough attention. I think he's too dangerous a fight for very little reward. And I know it's not a money thing for Khabib, it's a legacy thing, and it's 30-0 if he does return.
I think he wants to put a beating on somebody, and I don't think he feels that. He wants to put a beating on someone loud and obnoxious like McGregor. Yeah,
and Oliveira's not calling for the fight. Oliveira hasn't been vocal saying, I want Khabib. You know, it's just a tough one. Look, they should just take it as he's gone. Get a Grand Prix, whatever you want to do, done, but get a title picture set in stone so that we know what's going to happen by the end of 2021.
Okay, so what does Poirier have to do to get that next shot at Khabib? Be two people?
He's not coming out of bed for Poirier. He's just not. I don't think.
It's not going to happen at all, you reckon? Even with 2 wins?
Anyone who he's beat impressively. No, the only person that's he has beaten that he'll come back for is McGregor, and that's simply because of the hatred there.
Yep.
But he's not going to come back for Poirier. He's not going to come back for Gaethje. I can't even see him at this point coming back for Ferguson because of the drama of trying to put that fight together. Just
agreed.
Bangs of something that's not going to happen.
So I see. I think Chandler with another win, possibly maybe 2 wins. I don't know. I think McGregor needs 2 wins to get that shot. And not that. Okay, so if it's likely going to be the Poirier trilogy next. He's obviously going to have to win that. There's if he doesn't win that, he's out of the question. He's out of the probably drop
out of the
top 7 anyway, at least anyway. And then I think he needs one more win, and I think a win over Tony Ferguson.
Chandler or Gaethje gets him there as well. Yeah. Got to be one of those.
And I think the best one would be Chandler, if he can prove that he can handle a strong wrestler, and if he dispatches him well,
maybe
then that might entice.
Maybe, but this is like when I used to play poker, you'd fold on a hand, whatever, before the last card gets turned in Texas Hold'em, and you'd always ask to see the last card. And a buddy of mine said that's mental masturbation. You're just for the pleasure of your own mind, even though you can't win. This for me is mental masturbation. Talking about Khabib coming back, for me, he's just not coming back. As much as I'd like to see it, I just don't think it's going to happen.
So, Dana White's point on that was that he reckons that if it was the case that Khabib wasn't going to come back, then he wouldn't bother to come to the meeting in Vegas. The fact that he's actually still going to a meeting.
Yeah, but he had a good relationship with Dana.
But they've already had a meeting like a week and a half ago.
And I have a feeling that didn't go the way. But by the way, both meetings were set. It wasn't just that they set one meeting, they set 2 meetings.
Correct.
And I don't think Khabib got out of the first meeting what he wanted. I think Khabib has another agenda in meeting Dana, in the fact that he's got Eagles fighting championship.
To get that on Fight
and
Pass.
People are saying he wants to get it on Fight Pass. So Dana or Khabib probably has another agenda. Dana is going on his own war path. Look, I don't know. I just don't see it, personally.
All right, well,
break your heart even more. I know you're dying for that rematch, but I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong.
Well, let's move on to the Bellator announcements. So two big kind of media days. Well, we had one big media day and then another European announcement on the Thursday. So obviously the light heavyweight tournament is the big announcement that they had, or one of the big announcements that they had on Tuesday. And we have those could be main events on any card anywhere in the world. Like all 8 matchups in the first quarterfinals, you know.
All 4 matchups, but
all 4. Yeah.
But yeah, no, 100%. And the worry here is that the 2 of them are co-main events, and I hope they don't make the mistake they made in the featherweight and the heavyweight Grand Prix that went before
3 and 5 rounds. Is
that
it?
they do 3 minute or 3 rounds. Yeah, they should all be 5 minute rounds.
Yeah, at this stage, yeah.
you're competing in a tournament for the belt, whether you're competing in that matchup for the belt or not. It's a 5-round fight.
Yeah, it's like three title fights you've got, like.
Exactly, and they're competing as well for $1 million. Make them earn the check. They want to get them out of there in 3 rounds. They got to do that themselves, but make them 5 rounds fight, even just for parity.
So we've obviously got the Yoel Romero matchup.
Rumble, yeah.
Yoel Romero with Rumble. Nemkov is going in against Phil Davis.
Yeah.
You have Corey Anderson gets the new guy.
Yagshmuradov.
You've been practicing that all night, haven't you?
No, the second name is fine. The first name, don't eat, and I'm going to entertain that.
Okay.
There's just way too many consonants.
Next week.
I'll read up, but I don't think I'm going to get there.
And what's the fourth match again then is Machida and Ryan Bader.
Yeah. It's funny because one side of the bracket leans heavily, with the exception of Machida, and no offense to Machida, but he's the outsider to win this. It leans heavily on the grappling. And on the other side, with the exception of Phil Davis, and again, apologies to Phil Davis, he's kind of one of the outside guys as well, leans heavy on the striking. So yeah, realistically, it could be a case of a strong grappler versus a striker in the finale. But yeah, I like the matchups. I wish they didn't put Rumble and Yoel in there right together. And not just because I wanted to see it in a semi-final or a final, but I have my concerns that Yoel has looked tentative in his last 3 or 4 fights and uneager to kind of get involved. And you've Rumble 4 years removed from the sport. This could be a bit of a letdown. I think we're all so excited for this fight that it might just be a letdown. I'd be worried.
So we have a couple of comments there from our top commenter of the month, Mr. Kevin O'Sullivan. The only fight that makes sense is Conor for the attention and it draws and the draw it brings.
Yeah.
And are those meetings? What? I don't get this one.
Are those meeting? Fuck it. Got there before me again, Paul. Are those meeting? You're going to have to elaborate, Kev.
We need a part 2 on that comment.
Yeah, no, we just missed the context of what you're saying there.
Yeah, we're kind of behind the comments, actually.
Oh, maybe it's that Khabib and Dana are meeting again. Very possibly. But yeah. Yeah, with the tournament, look, it's exciting, but I was hoping it would be a bantamweight tournament. I was talking with Brian on our podcast, and he was hoping it would be a bantamweight tournament for obvious reasons. But there's easily 16 guys you could have put into a tournament of bantamweight, and it would have been fire. The light heavyweight, while everyone is a big name there, there's 4 or 5 guys that are really exciting in there. Do you know what I mean? It's not. I don't think it's as exciting. Dana and Khabib.
Yep. So we just missed the context. Sorry about that, Kev. We've caught up now.
In other news on the Bellator announcements, though, they announced that they were on Showtime. And this is huge for Bellator. Absolutely huge. I know they were on CBS, which was a big platform for them as well. But to get on Showtime and to rekindle that relationship with Stephen Espinoza and Scott Coker. Of course, Strikeforce was on Showtime back in the day. I believe that the last card on Showtime was an MMA card on Showtime was in 2013. So it's a long awaited return to Showtime, which is a big network over there. So that's a huge move for them. The other side, of course, being in Europe, it's...
Yeah, we got the shit into the deal.
Well, for now we did.
Yeah.
Bellator do, to be fair to them. They get these things done and over the line generally.
Yeah.
I'd just be concerned at the moment, as it stands, that I actually saw a comment underneath when Bellator announced that they were with the BBC and the BBC iPlayer. There was a guy commented underneath going, "Oh wow, that's fantastic for European MMA." What was it? So basically, that they can watch in England. I'm here in Poland. How do I watch?
Yeah.
It's just it's a bit of an alarming one, and
with Brexit, that extends to everyone, including Ireland, and we're literally like a stone's throw away from them. And
yeah,
right now we legally can't watch on the BBC iPlayer without using a VPN. And yeah, so it sucks right now. But apparently, you saw a comment as well saying that they're in the works of sorting out something for Ireland. Anyway, I
imagine they will. Look, I'd be shocked if they didn't. With the amount of guys they have on the roster at the moment, 4 or 5 of them you could argue are a fight or 2 fights away from a title shot, all from Ireland. There's no way they don't get this done so we can watch those fights.
There was a couple of other fights announced as well.
You had Pitbull versus Sanchez in the semi-final of the
they just
featherweight
did
Grand
a
Prix.
promo for that more than an announcement.
Yeah, so that's going to be opening up the Bellator schedule for the year, which is a fantastic fight. And in the fourth event of the year, then they have the bantamweight title is on the line, Juan Archuleta versus Sergio Pettis, which is another fantastic fight, and it gets the ball moving in the bantamweight division as well, so we'll have a clearer picture. And I do believe there's going to be a few Irish fighters on that card as well, so that should be definitely one to tune into.
Yeah, and they also announced that it's 2 cards a month for the whole year.
Yeah. They're going to aim for that anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be good for. Well, it's definitely good for the US based fighters, because it's going to be obviously in the Mohegan Sun.
Yeah.
Kind of leaves the Europeans out in the cold a little bit, unless they can get their hands on a sporting visa to get across to the States, and that's just proving very difficult at the moment. So.
I just think they're hesitant to come back. Now, they last year they did great shows in Italy and they did a great show in Paris. But with everything with COVID and the travel restrictions and everything, it's a logistical nightmare. UFC, obviously, they're doing their thing in Abu Dhabi, and Abu Dhabi have opened up their arms to the UFC and they've made this possible.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd be seeing UFC putting on shows outside of the Apex only for that. To get a show done in another country at the moment is logistically it's almost impossible. So
Bellator need a Middle Eastern sugar daddy, is what you're saying.
yeah, the Prince of Bahrain will be onto them. Yeah.
Why not? So speaking of COVID, we have another casualty to the coronavirus with your
my
boyfriend.
boy.
So
Such
what's
a
going on with him?
pity. I've no idea. Look, this
We're talking
fight.
about Hamzat Chimaev anyway. For those who don't know who Paul lusts after.
The sort of smash tour for 2021 has been put on pause again. Whatever's going on with him, the fight just shouldn't have been booked again if he's still suffering from side effects of it. Like
we've said that a number of times, that like they're pushing fights out 2 weeks after a positive test. Like we know, like it's common knowledge at this stage. Like 2 weeks, it's not. There's no guarantee that you're going to get better in 2 weeks. No. Even if it was a bad flu, 2 weeks is not enough.
Yeah.
The fact that it's COVID, which has, like, evidentially got a lot of people suffering much longer term effects, like scarring of the lungs, fatigue, like mental fogginess and things like that.
It's just not conducive to putting in a training camp.
And he's not the first major fighter to be dropped at long COVID as well. So, you know, they just need to learn from this a little bit, I think.
Yeah, and hopefully they do the right thing now by Leon Edwards, because if there's any fighter in the world of MMA at the moment that has suffered more, or that their career, I suppose, has suffered more at the hands of COVID, it is Leon Edwards.
Yep.
You go right back to that Tyron Woodley fight, headlining a fight in London against what was then the number 1 ranked guy in the welterweight division. And we're now, I suppose, it's a year removed, just shy of a year removed from that. And everything that's happened in between, he can't get the guy that's number 15 in the world to get in there after all the back and forth. It's bananas. I hope he gets a big fight for his sake.
So is a Jorge Masvidal is who they're targeting at the moment, I heard?
So Dana White came out and said that they're actually looking at Colby Covington for that bout. That's what they're trying to get done. That'll be a very interesting one for him. It's a very tough fight for Leon. But it's exactly the fight he needs before he goes for the title. So a win there gets him that title shot.
Yep.
Of course, Leon already is on a 7-fight win streak, so he's a case to be made that he should be going at, but this one would certainly get him there if that's the fight.
So, speaking of fights, we suppose we better get on to this.
Speaking of the welterweight division.
Welterweight division, that was a better segue, actually, not to be fair. I should leave the segues, you really. So let's pop it up on screen here. We've got obviously the main event, Mr. Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns, teammates. The champion leaves the camp, goes across country, goes from Florida all the way up to Cleveland, I think, or Montana. No, he's way up to top. He's way up.
One of those northern ones.
Yeah,
my geography is fucking shocking when it comes to the States.
He's way up in the sticks. Is it Colorado?
Colorado,
Is it?
possibly.
Yeah, I don't know.
Denver.
Somebody will correct us anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's up there with Trevor Whitman.
Where's Seth the Bachelor when you need him?
So he's up there in the snow anyway, and he's training with Trevor Whitman. And this he talked. Actually, I was watching Countdown, and he was talking about Rashad Evans having to do the same thing when John Jones was scheduled to fight Rashad. In that, Rashad, as the more senior fighter, had to kind of leave the camp and make way for the youngster who had just joined the camp.
Yeah.
Slightly similar to what's happening here with Gilbert Burns. Yeah.
I can't see why both guys can't run their camps in the same gym.
Yeah,
So
they do it in the Ultimate Fighter all the time.
These gyms are super gyms. Like, why can't both guys, if they want to bring in their own coaches, bring in their own coaches? No, look, the one thing I would say is Usman was working with Whitman for the Jorge Masvidal fight.
Okay.
So it's not like this was the first time he moved away from the gym. So this is possibly something he was going to do anyway. But it just strikes me as weird that both guys can't put on a camp and they can't make it work for both guys to be in the gym.
Yeah, agreed.
Especially when both guys are amiable. If it's a fight like Jorge Masvidal versus Colby Covington and it might kick off at any minute, you probably tell one guy to fuck off somewhere else. But when both guys are amiable and getting on with their business, it shouldn't be too much of a task to get them both camps in the same time.
So just going back a little bit on Gilbert's last few fights. So obviously he's got the win over Woodley and Maya. And
That's only a grappling bout. Yeah, he's 5-fight win streak. He's a good few grappling bouts in there over the last few years, but he's on a 5-fight win streak or 6-fight win streak. Apologies. His last loss was, of course, the KO loss at lightweight to Hooker. And that kind of worries me a little bit. I know Gilbert Burns has power, but if you're getting KO'd at lightweight, and I know he cuts a lot of weight.
Yeah, I think that was more to do with the cut.
Usman's a hard hitter, though.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah.
So, look,
but Tyrone Woodley is a harder hitter.
But Woodley, this is the argument I had as well. So that's their common opponent of late. When Usman fought Woodley was number one in the world. He was the top guy. He was beating everyone. He looked unbeatable. And Usman made relatively light work of it. Since then, we've seen what's happened to Woodley. When Gilbert Burns fought Woodley, he was a shadow of that guy.
Yeah. He was the moaning T-Wood.
Yeah, so it's actually very hard to picture where Gilbert Burns lies in that top 5, because he fought Demian Maia when Maia was off a few bad performances and didn't really look himself. He beat Woodley when Woodley didn't really look himself, and they're the only guys he's fought in the upper echelon of that division. So it's hard to say that he's the absolute true number one contender when you've the likes of Leon Edwards hanging about there. When you've the likes of Colby Covington, Jorge Masvidal, arguably. I know they've both had their shot. But there's a lot of guys around there.
Let's look at Usman then and see where, we'll talk through his last few fights just to kind of put some context on this. So, as you said, Masvidal and Covington last. Woodley, he basically almost retired,
destroyed,
all but retired Woodley with that performance, or put him on the tail end of his career.
Yeah,
Dos Anjos
beat him comfortably as well.
Yep. Maia
when Maia was Maia.
Yeah.
You know, it's a phenomenal performance. And then you're going back way outside the top 15 for most of the rest. There's the win over Leon Edwards, of course, as well, yeah.
Yep.
That's Leon Edwards' last loss. It's one of those. Look, Usman hasn't lost in 15 fights. Usman hasn't been beaten him forever, except for a couple of those spurious ones on the Ultimate Fighter that he lost.
Right.
But yeah, it's tough to see Usman getting beat here. And I was actually back and forth on this all last week, trying to figure out who'd win. And then I watched a bit of Gilbert Burns and I was like, geez, he has all the attributes of a guy that could take Woodley. But I watched a bit more of it, or Woodley, Usman. I keep making that mistake. But Usman he's a bit too good from everywhere for me. I think he'll get it finished late on.
Kevin said it's a pity he'd like to see a 3-piece in a soda or 2-piece in a soda. I think it's referring to
Jorge Masvidal.
Masvidal to be next up for Leon Edwards. Unfortunately, it's looking like it's going to be Colby Covington. But
if they can get it done, it has to be one of those big guys, though.
Yep.
And Colby's probably the one that makes most sense.
Yeah, and just in terms of the so how do you see the fight playing out between Usman and Gilbert? Do you reckon it's going to be? Let's see. I was bitterly disappointed with the fight between Usman and Covington.
Yeah.
In that, to me, that was just two high level grapplers who cancelled each other out, and two mediocre kickboxers who just basically threw single shots for an entire 4 rounds or whatever how many rounds there was. It wasn't a very, very good fight technically.
And this is the thing. I had this argument with Brian. An Usman fight is always going to look that way, unfortunately. He does enough to beat everyone. He's a killer, but like it's in his own methodical way. There's nothing very flash, nothing very exciting. And prepare yourself for a very similar fight to the Colby fight, in my opinion. They're two guys that prefer to grapple. I know, obviously, Burns is good on the feet and he's a massive overhand right. But Usman's just a little bit too clever and will get in close and will make the fight dirty when he needs to, and then come outside and he's good striking of his own when he needs to be there. I see him finishing Gilbert late.
I see. I was thinking I was giving the striking advantage to Usman, and in particular with his reach advantage. And now that he's working with Whitman as well, we know Whitman is a great striking coach, very good on kind of tactical footwork and stuff like that. Yeah. Gilbert seems to be the more natural of the two when striking.
Yeah. 100%, and he uses that to get close and
he's
get
explosive,
to the grappling. Yeah,
explosive. What I don't see from either of them is flow from one combination to the next. It seems to be just all kind of like it's a 1-2 or it's a 2-3 or like, you know, a 3-punch combination and then reset. They don't kind of piece them together like a Max Holloway or like, you know, those types of strikers. Now I think Gilbert is going to have to take get Usman to the ground in order to get that submission, which he believes he can get. Is he going to get him to the ground?
Which, by the way, it's. I believe they'll be on the ground, but I can't picture Gilbert being on top at any point.
Yeah,
like you've always said, that level of wrestling is the big equalizer. To be an elite wrestler, jiu-jitsu guys are going to find it hard to get them down, and even when they're on their back, where they normally be a threat against these guys. The elite wrestlers are able to move them around and manipulate them in such a way that they can't be a threat.
So the only way I see Gilbert on top is if he drops Usman with an overhand of some description, which he's well capable of doing. He's got a few knockouts in his record. He's got a big overhand right. He's got some nice left hooks. He could possibly drop Usman, and that's the only way I see him getting on top. And I don't see him submitting Usman from bottom. He's going to have to get the back, or he's going to have to get a top position. To me, it looks like Usman has all of the easier ways to win the fight, and I just can't see. I would like for Gilbert to do it. I think a kind of a changing of the guard would be good for the division. But I just don't see Gilbert having enough options to win.
No, Usman certainly has more avenues to win the fight, and he seems to be a master at bringing the fight where it's comfortable for him. His fight IQ is very, very high.
So we move on to the co-main.
Co-main is a very good fight. We've talked a lot about this, about contenders coming through in the strawweight and the flyweight division.
Yep.
And this is one of those where one of these girls is going to knock off a huge contender. Both are huge contenders right now, but they're going to get a massive rub off this because both are coming in. It's a weird one because Alexa Grasso has 3-3 in her last 6 fights, but it feels like she hasn't lost any of that potential or any of that kind of star power or hype that she's been bringing with her. She's actually the favourite going into this one, which I was surprised with. Macy obviously coming off her first loss, and they're putting that down to a freak incident against Roxanne Modafferi. Like we talked about this, and I think Modafferi would have won that fight anyway, the way the fight was going. But Macy's tough. For me, this is a power versus precision striker.
Yep.
You have Macy, who's got that kind of she's good boxing, but it's a little bit loose, a little bit wild, but she has massive power in her hands. And then you have Alexa Grasso, who when she gets going, I go back to the Karolina Kowalkiewicz fight, and she looked absolutely phenomenal late in the first and in the second, or through the second round. So
I think this is the female equivalent of Paulo Costa and Israel Adesanya. I think you have like Macy Barber coming in with the mad power, the big ass, and you know, like the knockout shots. Great if you can land them, but I think Grasso's footwork, her timing, her in and out movement, I think she's just going to pick her apart and eventually just kind of either drop her and maybe get on top of that stage, or just keep it as a kickboxing fight for the whole time. I just see it being a kind of like a piecemeal breakdown over the time, and I see a Grasso coming out with the win on this one.
See, and I struggle with that. As much as I will wholeheartedly agree that Grasso clearly has much crisper boxing and much crisper striking, I think there's an allure about Macy Barber, that there's something about her. Like, there was a huge shock when she lost to Roxanne Modafferi, a girl that's 8-0 going in against one of the all-time veterans of women's MMA, and it was one of the biggest shocks of the year that she lost, and even with the injury. She's just one of those special people that come along in MMA, and they're going to be very difficult to take out, and it's hard not to see her being a champion at some point. I would just side with Macy. I just think we've seen her get hurt before, previous to the Modafferi fight, and come back and win. I think she's a more well-rounded fighter. I think she can take this to the mat and do damage, ground and pound or whatever. But yeah, I'd actually side with Barber in this. I think power beats precision in this one.
Okay.
Going against the famous Conor McGregor quote, of course.
All right, so Kelvin Gastelum is still at middleweight.
Yeah.
He's had a kind of a mixed run up there. Well, he's doing well, but I mean, obviously, I still think he's just a welterweight that likes his lattes.
Yeah, but he's got
always. I know he missed welterweight a few times.
He's always going to be the short, chubby guy at middleweight.
Yeah,
it's never going to change. Now, I've seen a couple of the embeddeds, and he is looking in better shape. He seems like he's put on a bit of bulk, but he's too undersized for the division. Yep. The only thing I would have here is that Heinisch isn't the tallest or longest guy in the division.
Yes, but he does have that big ass. We spoke about this.
He's built like a brick shithouse. He's wide. He's a big dude. He's not a chubby legs. Kid, like, put it that way.
Yeah, he's huge legs. Hell of a backflip too. We were watching it after his last fight as well.
We were watching his last fight, and we were going on the weekly Armchair podcast, and one of the things they were asking us was who will be the champions at the end of 2021. And Liam just had it in his head that he was going to say Ian Heinisch because he could do a perfect backflip.
It's a good prerequisite. If you could do a backflip, you've got power in your hands, you know, because that comes from the ass muscles, and like you know, it's a sign of good hand-eye coordination, good athleticism, good core strength, good explosive power. I don't know.
If you told your lads here in the gym to go upstairs and put in a session, and you came upstairs and they were just doing backflips, you'd be happy enough.
I'd be happy out. I'd be happy with that. I'd be like, that's our celebrations sorted. All we got to do now is just win the fights. But, yeah. So
mind you, that backflip did come off the back of a huge KO. So yeah, it's the other side of it.
That's it. So he obviously, so Kelvin obviously dropped his last fight to Jack Manson. We were watching that heel hook finish there the last day. And Darren Till and Israel Adesanya, tough matchups before that. And like just before starting to slide with those results, he had obviously knocked out Michael Bisping. Bisping was on the rebound from his loss to GSP at the time.
Yeah.
And then went on to decision win against Ronaldo Jacare Souza.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, he's definitely punching up there with the top of the division all the time.
I wouldn't say top five. I think he's been found out at that level, but he's certainly a top 10 fighter at middleweight.
But Bisping as the former champion, he took out the former champion by knockout. Jacare was built to be the next contender.
It was about 5 weeks after Bisping got knocked out by GSP. Genuinely, it was a quick turnaround.
Yeah, I know. There is excuses there, but I mean, you know, like you can't just kind of wipe Bisping off the map as being like a kind of a washout after
and not
after
at
just
all
losing to GSP.
I'm saying
like Bisping fought with one eye
for a lot of his career. Yeah,
a simple knockout here and there is not going to slow him down.
That's true. And I'm not trying to wipe out Bisping's credentials. I'm just saying I don't think Kelvin Gastelum was ever top 5 quality. I think he just got Bisping at the right time of his career. The Gastelum one, you look at the losses to that he's had to Till, to Israel Adesanya, and now to Hermanson. The one thing I would say about the Hermanson fight is he landed a beautiful lateral drop takedown just before the finish. So, you know, it looked like he was going to go back to his wrestling and back to his roots and maybe mix things up, but that didn't go very well for him.
Yeah, so it was the Mearshart fight that we saw Heinisch do the backflip on. Before that, he had decision loss to Akhmedov and decision loss to Derek Brunson. So Derek Brunson was up around that title picture there for a while. So didn't he fight Israel Adesanya at one point?
Yeah,
wasn't it the
just before the Silva fight? Yeah.
So, yeah, he's up. He's in and around there. I don't know. It's certainly not as much tough competition as Gastelum. I mean, Gastelum is like battle tested. You can't say it any other way. So this will certainly be the toughest fight on Heinisch's resume so far. How would you see it going?
For me, I think, and it's the outside pick. The dogs have been barking this year, and I think if there's any dog on the card, he's going to pick it up this time. Actually, wait, Barber is an underdog as well, apparently, but according to the bookmakers, never picked. But for the real outsiders, I think Ian Heinisch actually gets a stoppage victory here. I think we've seen his leg kicks against Mearshart as well and how effective they were. I think if you go in against Kelvin Gastelum and light up his legs, he's very heavy on the lead leg. He'll open up the finish.
I am going with Gastelum. I just think the experience is going to win out here. And I think he's as I say, just more battle tested. I would love to see Kelvin Gastelum just get some sort of nutrition knowledge bombs that get him back to welterweight. I think he'd be a big problem at welterweight now that he's had like 5 or 6 fights up at middleweight. You know, and
had that experience fighting top level guys. It's how can you not hire someone and have the motivation? You're a professional athlete to get down there. It's, I don't know.
Yep.
Strange one. He shouldn't be competing at middleweight for me.
Yep, absolutely. Now, this next fight that's on the card, we don't know is it going ahead or not at this stage as we're live, or do we know is it going ahead? Bobby Green, Jim Miller. I'm just looking it up there now, but so we had news just before we came live that Bobby Green had passed out or something backstage just before he was to come out and do a stare down with Jim Miller, the ceremonial kind of weigh-ins type thing. So it's almost likely, or it could be likely, that Bobby Green has been removed from the card. We just have to double check on that. And if you're watching and you have a news feed going while we've been on air and you know, then comment in, let us know, because we look like absolute muppets here not knowing that.
But there's nothing on it yet. They haven't said either way whether if he's off the card or if it's going ahead or not yet. I haven't seen anything. I would imagine if a guy faints just before they do a face-off, backstage day before and the medical team are around him, he's not being allowed to fight. I can't imagine that fight goes ahead. It'd be very, very, very strange circumstances.
It kind of depends. I mean, if it's just somebody fainting, it could be anything. It could be just like, not enough blood sugar or I mean, he definitely would have dehydrated himself to make the weight earlier, and maybe he just hasn't got the blood sugars back or something like that.
But
lots of different reasons for
would a
fainting.
medical team still be okay to clear him if he came to after that?
Yeah, I mean, if they checked his blood pressure and monitored it for a few hours and they couldn't find anything that was that was obviously wrong, or we say a couple of hours afterwards he bounces back to health, he's got his color back properly, and he's bouncing around the place again. Yeah, I don't know. It really, like, even the report of him passing out was kind of vague.
Yeah.
So like, did he? I don't know, did he trip over a wire like fucking Tony Ferguson, or you know, we don't even know. We know nothing really. So
yeah. I just see a comment there after coming up. We have set the bathware back in the house.
Nice.
And he says Gastelum can be a champ at 170. And
I agree.
I fully agree as well. If that guy could get a nutrition expert in, get a strength and conditioning expert in, and make that weight, he'd be a nightmare down there. And he proved that when he was down there. He shot up through the division, just couldn't make the weight. Struggled with it.
So let's just work on the assumption that this Bobby Green Jim Miller fight is going ahead, because we were kind of looking at some fights to this anyway.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on how that fight goes?
I look at Jim Miller's record of late. He's 3-2 in his last 5, but that last fight he could easily have won the fight. I thought it was very, very close against Vince Pichel. For a guy that's, I believe this is going to be his 37th fight in the UFC. It's frightening that he's still competing at this level.
Yeah,
now,
it's a long list, all right, as we scroll down through it. Yeah,
he's up to recently, he was a gatekeeper for the top 15. I think he's after slipping a little bit down the rankings again now. But he's fighting guys that they're of the same ilk. They're guys that have been around a while. They're veterans. There's no young murderer going in there against them. But he's looked very good. On the flip side of that, Bobby Green hasn't looked great for a guy that was kind of touted to get into the top 15 and do very well. 3-2 in his last 5, lost to Moises in his last one. It's a difficult one for me, but despite what I've seen today, if the fight does go ahead, I think Bobby Green takes it. I think he stuffs the takedowns, and he's just a little bit too clinical on the feet for Miller. I can see it going the distance, though. I can't see him finishing Miller in any way.
and we also had he had a kind of a strange interview this morning as well. A lot of the guys from the MMA Opinion staff page were kind of commenting on that. Was it Ben Duquette that said it? That he gave an interview this morning talking about that he has no intentions of becoming champion. He's just fighting for the money. He wants a couple of cars and a house and a few quid in his back pocket, and he's happy with that. Kind of
strange place to be at for an active fighter who people still believe has potential to get into the top 15.
But if you don't have the kind of belief in yourself, it doesn't matter who believes in you. It has to come from a core self belief. And when the chips are down and you're on your back and you're a round down or 2 rounds down, that's the belief that gets you to the top again. But so it's weird. Like
a paycheck can't be motivation at that level of the sport. No. Unless there are circumstances where guys are fighting for the winning check, but obviously he's not in that position. He's comfortable. He's just fighting for a check in general. Mm-hmm. So but this is a favourable matchup for him. For me, as hit and misses he's looked, I do believe this is a favourable matchup. Yeah,
I just don't think he's a good matchup for Jim Miller. I think Jim Miller relies on being able to get guys down and kind of dominate them in the top position. Bobby Green's hard to get down. Hard to hold down when you get him down, and he's also got that kind of explosive kind of power on the feet as well. So it's dangerous until you get him down.
Yeah.
So
I believe it'll be a good fight though.
Oh yeah, you can never count Jim Miller out. He's a dog. Like he's always there or thereabouts. It's been around for, as you say, for like millennia.
Forever. Yeah. So 36 fights already in the UFC. It's absolute bananas.
So this is your pick for a sleeper fight, Julian Marquez and Maki Pitolo.
I absolutely love this fight. If you know much about either of these guys, Julian Marquez has been out of the scene for 2.5 years, unfortunately. Only 9 fights in his record, but my God, when he shows up, it's going to be an exciting fight. Mm-hmm. You look at, he fought on Dana White Contender Series against Philip Hawes. He got hurt bad early, but came back and ended up picking up a huge head kick KO win. His first fight in the UFC was Darren Stewart. And again, first round, he got lit up. He gassed, but he was in a trading war with Darren Stewart and eventually caught him in a guillotine. And again, against Alessio De Chirico, his gas tank looked much better, but it was a close back and forth fight and another war. And this guy has a chin on him. Like you'd want to have some form of a weapon in there to take this guy out. He's not going out by strikes. And on the flip side of that, you have Maki Pitolo, who is known for his heavy strikes and his chin. A guy that never takes a backward step. Yeah, for me, this is going to be a phenomenal, absolute war. Both these guys, like Mackey's 1-3, I think, in the UFC, but he's had some tough matchups. That Darren Stewart fight was tough. He got caught in a guillotine. Imba Kasangane, I know Imba Kasangane is most well known now for the spinning back heap with Joaquin Buckley, but he's a huge guy in the middleweight division, and the worry here for Pitolo is that Julian Marquez is one of the bigger guys in the middleweight division as well. He's 6'2" and just a huge guy. Pitolo's a little undersized, but Pitolo held in there for 3 rounds with Imba Kasangane and put it on him. Absolutely put it on him for 3 rounds. So yeah, I'm excited for this fight. Either way, I think Marquez has more ways of winning the fight, and I think he gets it done. But I think it's a 3-round absolute war.
So, like, there's a heap of fights on the undercards. Any fights that kind of stand out for you on the undercards? I'll put them up here again, and you can see them.
Well, the main one there is the Miranda Maverick versus Jillian Robertson fight, the opening fight of the night.
Of course, you had the interview with Miranda last week.
Yeah, I spoke to Maverick during the week, or Miranda, and she's a motivated girl. My God, she attributes her strength to growing up on a farm, and her first performance in the UFC was just absolutely phenomenal. This is a girl that came in with huge grappling credentials, and she was submitting everyone. And she came in her debut in the UFC. She lit the girl up in strikes, and the doctor stopped it after the first round. So there's a little bit of everything. I think Robertson's in for a tough night, personally. I think Miranda's looked phenomenal. She's only had 1 fight in the UFC. She's going in against a vet. But I just think Miranda's a little bit too tough for her right now. And Robertson's known for her toughness as well, so it should be a good fight.
Yeah, I see you lost there to Amanda Lone. And grappling. I've rolled with Amanda, so I know how that feels.
But it looks a good fight. You see there, like they both have a grappling win over Pearl Gonzalez as well. I say both have a grappling win. Robertson has a grappling win over her, and Miranda has an MMA win over her, but by submission. Yeah.
So yeah, but that's a good scrap to get the card off the ground.
Yeah.
This Ricky Simone and Brian Kelleher, I was talking about this at the start. I feel like this fight's already happened about 15 times. I don't know what it is. It's like deja vu as I look at it on the match list here, but that's going to be a good fight.
Yeah, it was certainly matched up a couple of times late last year, early this year. They tried to put it together and it just didn't come about. So,
and of course, Ricky Simone is only out of the cage a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Did he fight only a couple of weeks ago?
3 weeks ago or something, yeah.
Yeah, in January, 20th of January.
Yeah.
Against Perello.
Yeah, good performance as well, so it's good to see him back. The fight at 145, both of these guys are naturally 35ers, so I think that may have something to do with the fact that they're out of there. Brian has fought a couple of times at featherweight, but he's naturally a 35er. But it's a good fight for both guys. Both guys are going to come in there, and Ricky Simone is wild. He's going to bring it, and I don't think Brian will back down. So it could be another bit of a sleeper on the card as well.
Any other fight there stand out to you?
There's a few that stand out. You've Bilal Muhammad versus Diego Lima is a very good fight.
Yep.
Both have possessed huge KO power. Diego, of course, famously the brother of Douglas Lima, the welterweight champion in Bellator. I see Bilal picking up a victory here. I think he's just a little bit too technical for Diego, but certainly a good fight.
Yeah, like Diego's been out there a while.
Yeah.
His last fight back here in October 2019. Like, I'm looking back and there's names like Jesse Taylor and Yusho Okami on like near the top of his list.
Yeah,
and that's not a good sign.
But they were actually recently enough. Jesse Taylor was in The Ultimate Fighter, and Yusho Okami is only a couple of years ago.
That was 2018, April 2018. So it's 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Jesse Taylor, though, holy shit, there's a flashback.
I know. I was only just watching actually. The UFC released a YouTube 1 hour kind of thing as a promo for the upcoming Ultimate Fighter season, and they kind of went back over the highlights of all the previous seasons, the 28 seasons that went previously, and Jesse Taylor winning. I can't remember which season he won, but he literally got out of the house and went partying, and the CCTV footage.
He got to the final. He didn't win it. He got to the final, and then he went absolutely wild, burst up a limo.
Yeah, he kicked the window out from inside the limo, and then went in and started harassing women and getting stuck into the security guards and everything, and then
telling them I'm a UFC fighter.
Yeah.
And Dana cuts him before the finale.
I know, horrible. Yeah.
It was to be fair though, that season, the Ultimate Fighter 25, when there was a lot of the comeback season, that was actually a very good season. It was good to see Jesse come back and win that season out. So
yeah,
it was quite good. He would have been a fan favorite back in the day.
So he was on Diego Lima's list. So let's go back in and just have a quick look at Bilal Muhammad. And he was on scales today at championship weight.
Yeah, he's a ways off that, but
that's what I was thinking when he was talking about the belt. Like, he was making that gesture on the scales, where it's like title shot next kind of thing. I was like,
he has a long way to go.
Slow down here, buddy.
Yeah, he's a long way to go. He's had some impressive wins, but that loss to Jeff Neal, and Jeff Neal kind of has been found out a little bit in the top 15. So there's quite a ways to go. Not saying he can't get there. He's certainly a big striker, but he'd have to round out the game for me a little bit more to get up into that top 15, certainly the top 10. There's some killers in that welterweight division. Like, it's tough out.
It's a tough fight though.
Yeah, and there's actually a good fight in the strawweight division there. Mallory Martin versus Pollyanna Vienna, another very good fight. So there are some good fights in the card. This card got a bit of stick because people were saying it's more of a fight night card. But to be honest, I absolutely love every fight in the main card. I don't think there's a bad fight in that card. Hopefully the Bobby Green one stays together now. But those fights are very good.
So are you seeing comments there on your side that I'm not seeing? Because I don't see the comments on my side here.
No.
My comment machine is broken.
No.
Okay, fair enough. We're just not getting any comments.
Just not getting comments, as opposed to you're not seeing them.
So that's it. So we have... let's go through, actually, just to remind me there, which... who are you going for? You're going for Usman, Macy Barber, Heinisch,
Ian Heinisch,
Green, and Marquez.
Yeah, Marquez, but that I don't care who wins that fight personally. I'm looking forward to that fight.
So I'm going Usman. I'm going Grasso. I'm going Gastelum. I think Bobby Green, and I don't know enough about Jillian Marquez and Pitbull to make an educated decision. So
just tune in,
flip a
don't
coin
miss
there.
it.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely. Yeah, I can't wait for this weekend's fights anyway. So
yeah.
So that's pretty much it. What have we got coming up? We've got you've got a load of interviews done. So for people who are interested in getting inside the heads of some up and coming fighters, who have you got interviewing this week?
Oh, where to begin? I'm basically interviewing everyone that's fighting on the Cage Legacy. I'm starting with the pros now at the moment. I'm interviewing a lot of the guys in the upcoming Cage Legacy, the Aftermath card, and doing a little production piece for all of those. So it's very interesting to kind of get to see the guys returning to MMA, because obviously there was no card in Ireland in 2020. So it's good to see all these guys getting a fight again, and kind of getting to see where their head's at, and they're excited to get back in there. And so those will be shared on Cage Legacy's YouTube page and on all Cage Legacy social media. So that's keeping me busy at the moment. And
you had Johnny Jitsu.
Johnny Jitsu, he's an entertaining character. Yeah, he's fighting, I believe it is Omran Shaban, apologies, and the Cage Legacy card. So that should be a good one. Omran's a confident young man. He's only 20 years old, taking on one of the older vets.
Sorry about that.
Nearly gave me a heart attack. But he's taking on one of the older vets, yeah, so it's should be a good one.
So just for those who are watching in, if you want to go ahead and give this page here on YouTube a like or a follow, it's Cage Legacy Fighting Championships, and up there you should see this is the Aftermath playlist here. So this will give you some of the...
the tree. He's simply not there.
Just give you some of the interviews. This is the Pollyanna interview I had up there.
Yeah.
So a couple of interviews there that if you haven't caught them on the MMA opinion page, you can certainly go ahead and catch them on this one here. But yeah, good card as well coming up. This 8 weeks out now, so you'll have a good few interviews on that one.
Yeah, they'll be interviewing most of the guys. Hopefully I'll get through the whole card before the event, so it should be good to get to kind of reach out to all the guys and they all get their own kind of promotional package before the fight as well.
Yep, brilliant.
It's a good one.
So we have a review show?
Yes, we'll be talking on Sunday again after the fights. Hopefully we might have a new champion. We might have Usman still on top, but we'll have some new contenders, certainly. You have that 125 fight, that'll be a new contender. And arguably, it's hard to say that they're not one fight away with this victory. So
yeah, definitely. So there you have it, guys. This has been the MMA Opinion Podcast. Hope you've enjoyed. Keep the comments coming. We'll always argue back and forth with you. And yeah, we'll talk to you on Sunday night.
Ciao.
I want to fight with Chuck. Chuck.
I think he just blew his wad there.
Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck. Are you still drunk right now? Are you still drunk or what? What's going on?
Frank Mir had a horseshoe up his